My husband wants me to be a mother to his affair child. My boyfriend gave me a pros and cons list about me as part of our anniversary present. I think my roommate may be poisoning me. My dad's friend at church wears a dance belt to control himself at his daughter's dance class, but dad doesn't want me to tell anyone. I found tickets for a cruise that my boyfriend got me. This gift has cemented for me that this relationship is over. My boyfriend gave me a pros and cons list about me as part of our anniversary present. Original post, October 15th, 2023. I met my boyfriend on Tinder in the beginning of my freshman year of college. I was a very naive 18-year-old. I've been on dates, but I'd never been in a relationship, and I hadn't even had my first kiss yet. I was pretty miserable my first couple weeks after move-in, and so I got on Tinder. And there I matched with a bunch of guys who went to my school. One of them I thought was pretty attractive. He was a junior and a brother in a good but notorious frat. He told me to come to his frat's party, so I went with some girls I'd met at orientation. There, he took me upstairs and we made out. But I think he could tell I was very inexperienced, so nothing more happened. I pretty much fell in love with him, even though we'd said about 3 words to each other. I didn't see him until a couple weeks later when he invited me to a party he was throwing. I was expecting us to at least hook up, but when we got there, he was clearly with another girl, and there were tons of other random girls who I assume he was also hooking up with. I was naive, but not an idiot, so I forced myself to get over it. And I didn't see him until my spring semester when I drank too much and he ended up at my dorm and I lost my virginity to him. I didn't see him again until fall semester of my sophomore year. We hooked up the first week we were back on campus. I still didn't catch feelings again though until we started to hook up regularly every week. At that point, I was again pretty much in love with him, although this time I did have reasons beyond just him being a large, attractive, popular man. We weren't dating, but we got to know each other and I saw his many virtues. However, it was still clear to me that he wasn't into me in that way, and that I was one of a number of women he was sleeping with, so I didn't say anything and I kept it casual. He also had a pretty terrible reputation as a fuckboy, even amongst his frat brothers. His Instagram comments were usually filled with them saying things like horniest man alive, and all 2,500 of his followers are his girlfriends. He graduated at the end of that spring semester and we saw each other one last time before. It was incredibly intimate and really cemented everything I felt for him. So after we both left campus, I confessed to him that I really liked him and that I wasn't okay with just hooking up with him anymore for my own sanity. Miraculously, he said he also had feelings for me and he asked me out on a real date. We started dating and have been together since, and the whole time has been healthy and happy for us. Last Thursday was our 1-year anniversary of becoming official. He got me an incredibly thoughtful gift basket, including some jewelry, a painting, and a card. In the card, though, was a printed picture of a pros and cons list on a whiteboard. He explained to me that he saw my confessional message when he was hanging out with his brother. My boyfriend said he really didn't know what to do and wasn't sure if he wanted anything more with me, but he was tired of sleeping around and wanted a stable relationship. So his brother said he should make a pros and cons list of me, and he did. Here's a paraphrase of the list. Pros: cute, great ass, good in bed, horny, likes me a lot, sweet, lots of friends, doesn't go out much, close to her family, really smart and academically successful, good future ahead of her, and definitely not a gold digger, would do wifely duties. Cons: kind of a slut, met on Tinder, frat rack, blacks out a lot, doesn't care a lot about her appearance, kind of nerdy. Based off that, he apparently decided to ask me out to dinner and then decide what to do based on how it went, and it went well enough that we started dating. He showed it to me with nothing but good intentions, but I was absolutely floored for obvious reasons. I've been pretending to be sick since then as I figured out what to do. On the one hand, he is my dream man and I am so glad to be with him. He has been nothing but incredible to me and we have a great relationship. And logically, I know that he wasn't in love with me or anything when he asked me out, as I'm sure he had some idea of how I felt and he never did anything about it. But it still hurts to think that his feelings toward me were so ambivalent that he needed a goddamn pros and cons list to just ask me out. I can't really talk about this to anyone in my life as a lot of them already dislike him and I don't want to bias them anymore. Wee woo, red flag, wee woo. So I thought I would ask here, what can I possibly do? I like to think that I have more self-respect than this, but I really do love him and don't want to cause a conflict in our relationship over something he definitely didn't think would hurt me. Relevant comments. When asked about receiving a degrading list for her anniversary gift, he can definitely be kind of an idiot at times. From his explanation, it seemed that he wanted to show how far we've come from just drunkenly hooking up to being in both of our first serious relationships and planning for a long-term future together. This was the only picture he had, and also it showed how much we've both grown. He also thought it was funny that he needed to make a pros and cons list, and now we are so committed to each other. Also, I didn't mention his virtues because it didn't seem that relevant to the issue at hand, but he has legitimately been a great boyfriend, and he is a great man in general. He's very supportive of everyone around him. He always compliments me and buys me flowers and gifts, and he's never hesitated to drop everything to help me out, even when we were just hooking up. And he's been receptive to any of my concerns about our past. He has never been bothered by blocking or unadding other girls. We also have similar values and goals, and both of our paths are aligning very closely. And thank you, you are right that I need to at least talk to him, as I don't think he's ever realized that it bothered me. On why people don't like him. My friends don't really like him, partially because they saw me pine over him for a year, and also because I kept our relationship secret when it started, and they were angry about that. They also think he is stupid and is a fuckboy. Some of my friends outside of my main group also don't like him because his frat had a really bad reputation. For what it's worth though, my family is fine with him. I just don't really speak to them about this kind of stuff. I don't think this is breakup worthy. I think your boyfriend's just kind of an idiot. As long as OP doesn't think like he's cheating or like doing anything in his fuckboy ways, he is in a committed relationship that he cares about and he loves this girl. I think this is definitely, hey, boyfriend, just so you know, that was kind of hurtful for you to show me that. I know you meant it in this way, but here's the way that I took it. When OP said that her friends didn't like them, that was a huge red flag to me, but after reading why, I think it's stupid. It sounds like OP's friends are judging him based off of what he did before the relationship, which if you're in college, just going through like a fuckboy phase is kind of normal. So it sounds like they're judging him for his past, not for his present. They saw OP pine over him for a year, and also because she kept their relationship a secret when they started. So that's on OP. They also think that he is stupid and a fuckboy. Well, if he's been in a relationship for a year, he's obviously not a fuckboy anymore. Maybe he's stupid, but I don't really think that's a reason to hate someone. You know, you can just be like, oh, you're a little not there, as long as he's a nice person. Personally, I'm someone that if I see someone has genuinely changed to a good person, I wouldn't be too bothered by some shit behavior in the past, so long as it's not too bad, you know? The only part that I'm like, hey, yo, you should check him is when he called her a slut. It's like, dude, if I was OP, I'd go up to the guy and be like, oh, I was a slut? What about you, bro? Like, you were a slut. I'm going with the, hey, definitely have a talk with your boyfriend, but I don't think this is worth breaking up with him for. If he's really into the relationship, then you're fine. October 16th, 2023. This is literally the day after they posted this. First off, I just wanted to clear up a couple things. One, no, he isn't the only man I've ever been with. I did lose my virginity to him, but I've been with plenty of men other than him after that. Two, no, he didn't R-word me. The first time we slept together, I was drunk but not blacked out, and I'm the one who told him to come over. I consented and I enjoyed it and continued talking to him afterwards. Three, no, I don't have any STDs. I get regularly tested and he's never given me anything, even though we often didn't use protection when we were just hooking up, including the first time. What a crazy thing to have to clarify though. I hate when people are like, oh, you must have so many STDs. Bro, just say you don't have sex. Now, for the actual update. Everyone's comments were a real wake-up call. I did already realize at least somewhat that the entire time we'd known each other before dating, he had treated me like crap, but I justified being with him by saying that he'd changed because I'd won him. But the pros and cons list made me realize just how little he thought of me, and giving it to me made me think that he still felt the same way towards me. It also made me realize that in his mind, he was settling for me, and that he probably only really liked me for the things I did for him. I also realized that although it was fine for a little while, he really was hot, to be honest. I definitely didn't want to have kids or spend the rest of my life with a man who didn't actually like or respect me. I also did make my own list, as some of the comments said, which made me realize how much I was willing to overlook for an attractive man. I would never give it to him because even though a lot of people seem to think I don't really love him, I do care about him a lot for some reason. I would never do anything to hurt him, but here's the list. Pros: 6'2", big, attractive, popular, good job, and makes a lot of money, close to family, can be sweet, pays for things, submissive. But is he breedable? Cons: NPC, has no hobbies or interests, drinks a lot, clearly doesn't respect me, kind of stupid, not interesting, hardly an intellectual, not well read, don't have a lot to talk about together, friends don't like him, not good in bed. Ooh, that's tough. That last one's tough, you guys. That last one's real tough. I'm not gonna lie. My list made me realize that not only does he kind of have nothing going for him, but being with him also reflects pretty terribly on myself and my values. I'm not really ashamed of myself because I met him when I was 18, but I hope I will not be this shallow of a person for my whole life. So I broke up with him this morning over coffee. He wasn't really upset and was kind of like, damn, okay. He did try to convince me to stay, but I was firm and we are officially broken up. I blocked him on everything because I have no self-respect when it comes to him, and I have no doubt he would try to booty call me soon if I didn't. My friends are all actually thrilled and are hosting a party for me tonight. My family was also pretty relieved. They didn't hate him, but they thought he was really stupid, and I think they're happy I won't be polluting the family lineage with idiocy on that level. That second part gave me a lot more perspective. In the first part, I thought she was like, oh, none of this is true. I don't believe it. He's really sweet to me, da-da-da-da-da. But seeing her pros and cons list was like, oh yeah, okay. Clearly you just like this man because he's 6 foot tall. My husband wants me to be a mother to his affair child. Original post, February 21st, 2023. I, 29 female, and my husband, 44 male. Hey, yo, wee woo, that's the sound of the police. I've been together for 5 years and married for 2. I met him. Wait, you're telling me you were 22 and he was 37? That's disgusting. I met him at the church I started going to when I moved cities to start my career. I work for an insurance company and he's a pastor. Of course he's a pastor. Why wouldn't he be a pastor? I know that we have a notable age gap, but he was always kind to me and made me feel special. Oh, well, if he made you feel special, then it's fine. You know, I really had a problem with the 15-year age gap, but hey, he's nice to you and makes you feel special. You know, I'm sure there are some serial killers that were really nice to their victims and yeah, made them feel special. So it's fine. Anyhow, a week ago, he came home and told me we needed to talk. He told me through tears that he had been having an affair with one of our community members, 34 female, and that she had been pregnant with twins. She had gone into labor. Wait a damn minute. So this man didn't come to you when it was like, oh yeah, we've just figured out that she's 9 weeks pregnant and I should tell you this. She has gone into labor. She had gone into labor. She and one of the twins died and the other one is in the NICU. Oh, that's pretty sad. I'm not gonna lie. He said we need to step up and that he wants me to turn my office into a nursery and set up a cot in the room so we can take turns. I became distressed and told him I wanted to take some time to think, that I was not sure I wanted to do this. He told me that I made a vow to him in a marriage and that God has blessed us with a child, that this is our cross to bear and that God will never give us something we cannot handle. Yeah, no, I know I just cheated on you, but this is God's will. God wanted me to cheat on you so that you could have this burden of a child that isn't yours. I told him that it seemed God had given her more than she could. No. Because she had died. I know I should not have, but I was not thinking correctly. He slapped me and told me that I needed to serve my husband, that God has chosen me as this child's mother and I needed to be his humble servant. I just feel so strange. Yesterday, I cried so hard I threw up. This woman died, yet I feel bad for myself. As you should. Look, man, shoot me. Her dying, not your problem. Feel bad for yourself. You have been cheated on, hit by your husband, low-key groomed, and now this man is making an insane request of you. I think you're allowed to feel bad for yourself. I feel so ugly. I wanted children and was saving for IVF because I am infertile, but now that I have a chance to have a child and I do not want it, I feel like I'd be robbing its mother's grave. I pray to God, but if I'm being honest, it's never felt like anyone was ever listening. I feel like I have truly seen my husband and he no longer looks kind. He looks his age and very tired. I want to abandon him and the child. I'm only 29. I can start over. I have a remote job. I can take a day off when he goes to the NICU, pack my essentials, and leave. Neither him nor the child deserve this, and although this is my circus, that is not my monkey. I mean, honestly, good on her. It sounds like she's starting to see through the BS. What kind of monstrosity did I just read? I need therapy after reading that, and it didn't even happen to me. Relevant comments. Someone said, love yourself and leave. That's the hard part. I always have felt like I was never on anyone's radar and just their back burner. He made me feel special and loved, but this last week, I feel like I've seen past that. Although I was old enough to decide to be in an age gap relationship, I feel like he had no business being with someone my age. Disagree. If you are fresh out of college, you are not old enough to be able to decide to be in an age gap relationship. At least an age gap relationship, that's 15 years. I'm 29 now and I would feel wrong being with someone 24. I spent my whole life accepting second best, and now that the one person who put me first has now put me last, I feel like I just see it all now. I feel used. I'm a Christian and preacher's kid. He's full of shit. He made vows too. This is not your cross to bear. OP said, I've been kind of thinking about that recently. I still love him because that doesn't leave overnight as much as I want it to. This last week, I've just been thinking about what it would look like when the baby comes home. The arguments we'd inevitably have in front of the child. The way he'll use the fear of God to make them behave, and I can't accept that. I was willing to accept that when it was just me, and I'm not sure why, but I just can no longer accept this behavior. He said that she had come to his office several times to seek spiritual counseling, and the affair just happened after many emotional sessions. The assistant pastor is aware of things according to my husband's version of events and has called me twice this week to offer help converting my office into a nursery. He said that forgiveness is a virtue and this is part of God's plan. Someone commented, don't let him use God to manipulate you. He doesn't care about you. That's just it though. Looking past the situation itself, he doesn't care about me and only pretended to. I finally found someone who put me first and it was a lie. I feel like such a gullible idiot. A 39-year-old man was interested in a 24-year-old woman because they had the same interests? Really? I feel so stupid for not seeing it when I can so clearly see it now. Small update in the comments, February 23rd, 2023. I'm still processing this all and I just need a little time. I don't feel unsafe, just unloved, just not enough. My husband did apologize for slapping me and continues to express regret, but he can't take it back. Just as he cannot take back impregnating another woman, which ultimately killed her. I'm just feeling so disillusioned with my whole life right now. I know I should leave. I know that there is a world out there that will not treat me like this, but I am scared of change. I am working on a plan to leave and getting my ducks in a row for when I'm ready to go, but I am not sure when I would leave if I chose to. Many expressed that I should make a report to the police about him slapping me, and they're probably right, but that would likely cause me more problems than it would be worth. If I leave, it might make him want to contest the divorce more, and if I stay, it would cause more tension. I've been working on my left hook though because I won't let him get away with it again. Damn, OP really said these hands rated E for everyone. I'm not violent myself, but I'm down for a tussle because although I'm hurt, I am angry. I'm not sure if there will be an update because I'm still unsure. I can make all the plans in the world, but the change scares me almost as much as bending to his will. I've been praying about it, but I see no clear answers or guidance. I don't know. Funny thing, I'm jealous of the people saying that this is fake. It's like I want my life to be like it was 2 weeks ago. I could read a crazy story on the internet and think, wow, that's crazy. Seems kind of fake, and keep scrolling and go about my life. Only I can't scroll away in real life because that's just not how life works. I don't owe anyone proof of my life tragedies, least of all strangers on the internet whom I will never meet. I do thank all of you who have given support. I wish I could tell you I packed my bags and left his sorry ass, but I'm not strong enough to yet. It's not that easy to do in real life as it turns out. Odd. Updated post October 17th, 2023, 8 months later. I left. If that's all you wanted to know, there it is. Let's go! For those of you who asking how the other woman died, I get it. I invited you into my business. It was an amniotic fluid embolism. I don't know much about those, but I guess when they happen, things go wrong really, really fast. We lived in a more rural area, so they just weren't ready for something like that to happen. I didn't leave right away as I know now that I should have. It just wasn't that easy. I stayed for 2 more months. I knew if I did not at least try to make it work, I would not be able to live with it. Not because I wanted to save my marriage, but because what ifs keep me up at night enough as it is. I went to marriage counseling with my husband, but it was ultimately fruitless. Of course, it was Christian counseling. I felt like their goal was for me to forgive him rather than actually trying to help me. I was so utterly alone during that time. My parents and brother are also very religious, so even though they weren't happy with my husband, they kept urging me to do what a good Christian wife would do. Go no contact with that family. That is unacceptable. That is so disgusting. I spent so much time suffering in my own head that I began to realize that I was just going through the motions, doing what I thought people expected of me. I entered a state of derealization for a time, and that was an absolute mind fuck. The feeling of nothing being real, not even myself, was horrible. During this period, my husband brought his baby home, and while we tried to split the cares 50-50 at first, he ultimately didn't trust me to look after the baby because I was lost in space. So we ended up being the primary provider. When I was with the baby, all I could think about was how its existence ruined my life. It'd look at me with big blue eyes and I would just wish it would disappear. I would actively spend time resenting a baby. There was a time when I was thinking to myself and I wished it would stop breathing. That was when I knew that I needed to leave. I was blaming a baby and wishing ill upon it, and that was not okay to do. I don't remember much about this time besides that. It's mostly a blur otherwise. I sought services through my work to talk to a therapist, and I eventually came back to Earth. She helped me make a plan. At no point did I fear my husband. I truly believe the slap was a one-off event. However, screw him. He doesn't deserve closure. On a night he had a long Bible study, he always took his baby with him because he didn't trust me. I packed my essentials and dipped. I met him pretty quickly after college, so I did not have much to take as far as furnishings. I fit everything I wanted into 3 suitcases and 4 moving boxes. It all fit into my SUV. After some mediocre Tetris skills, I was able to change my phone number online before I left, but I did leave the divorce papers under his pillow with my lawyer's contact info. Kind of like the Tooth Fairy, but for a-holes. I was the breadwinner. In my state, we were not married long enough for me to have to pay spousal maintenance. At least that is what my lawyer said. I owned my vehicle outright. We had our own bank accounts and a shared expenses account. We filed taxes separately, and the church owns the house. He's being an ass about it all, but I'm hoping it should be done soon. I got a decent apartment in a city a few hundred miles away. I've never lived in a city this big before. Everything is so expensive, but besides that, I like it. I found a new therapist, met some new friends, and found a new church with loving people. I still have my days, but for the most part, I'm content. I think it will always hurt on some level, but I'm working on taking my power back. I turn 30 next month, and I'm hopeful it will be the start of my best decade yet. I'm just glad OP ended up leaving. Nobody should have to ever put up with that stuff. That Christian or religious guilt is unacceptable in my opinion. I think my roommate may be poisoning me. Original post, October 12th, 2023. I'm 25 female and I live in Seattle. I just moved here a few months ago from New York City because of my dream job and I was so excited. I work as a data analyst and I make a very comfortable living. It felt like my life was finally all starting to fall into place. The only thing I needed was a place to live. I took to Facebook because I figured that might be the best place to find a roommate. I found this girl, let's call her Kate, 26 female, and she seemed perfect. She said that her and her boyfriend, 29 male, were in a 2-bedroom apartment that was very spacious, in a great location, and were looking for someone to rent the room. She said she was a 7th grade English teacher and her boyfriend was a physical therapist. All her interests and hobbies seemed to align perfectly with mine, so I agreed to live with them. I moved in 1 month after initially finding each other and everything started off great. Kate and I were friendly and had good conversations when we would interact. One day, however, I get home and she seemed to be in a very bad mood. I asked her about it and she ignored me and walked into her room. I didn't think anything of it, but then I received a text from her that read, "I know you want to F my boyfriend," and that's all she wrote. I was very confused because that was completely untrue. I have been cheated on in the past and know how devastating it is, so I would never want to inflict that pain onto someone else. There were more text exchanges and everything seemed to be good, but when I saw her in person, she continued to act weird, but I brushed it off. The next day, however, she began to act very nice and sweet, even offering me a smoothie because she knew I was too busy in the mornings to make breakfast. I accepted and went about my day. The smoothies continued every morning and I just thought she was being nice. Now I am experiencing some symptoms and I'm a bit scared. My hair has started to fall out and my hormones have been all over the place. I have developed some weird stomach issues and I get headaches all the time now. This is all new to me. It may be that the move and all this change is affecting my health, but it does seem to have started around when the smoothies did. I don't know how to catch her and see if I'm right, and I don't want to seem rude and stop accepting the smoothies if I'm wrong. I don't know what to do. I need some advice. Someone said, see a doctor ASAP and take the smoothie with you so they can test it. OP said, wow, I didn't realize they would be able to test it at the hospital. That is 100% what I will do. I also do not want to be on a true crime podcast. Thank you very much. This is beyond helpful for me. How are your nails? Have they developed ridges? I always have my nails manicured, so I don't really know if they look abnormal. Someone said, I hope it's something like a bad blender and not something malicious, but also get allergy tested. I'm also hoping it's not malicious, but I definitely will be doing all that has been suggested. Rent an Airbnb and move now. I have been looking for a new place. I'd rather live alone at this point. No matter what, I don't think homegirl should be poisoning her roommate. She definitely glossed over the whole you want to sleep with my boyfriend thing way quicker than I thought she should have. Like, she kind of was like, yeah, she accused me of it, and then we texted, and that was it. Why? Like, what is the reason? You know what I'm saying? Never accept smoothies or drinks from anybody unless you see them make it in front of your eyes. I would try to like watch her make it. I think it's weird that she's like, it's rude to say no to a smoothie. Like, why don't you just say yes and like take it with you and then dump it out? We got an update 6 days later, October 18th, 2023. I took the advice to go to the hospital and did just that. I went to the hospital the day after posting and brought along the smoothie. They told me that they were unable to test the smoothie at this time, but they did give me a blood test as everything would still show up there. This would also indicate what is happening in my body and why I might be experiencing these symptoms. To make a long story short, turns out my roommate was adding some sort of creatine or protein powder into the smoothies because she wanted me to bulk up so I was no longer seen as desirable to her boyfriend. I told her about what happened at the hospital and she told me everything. That is what was causing my headaches, stomach issues, and potentially the hair loss because I'm apparently allergic to it. So technically she was not poisoning me, just trying to make me bulky. This, however, is not the traumatic part. While the doctors were giving me all the blood tests, they found that I have leukemia. Hey, yo! This news has been hard for me to deal with. Now, because of my new circumstances, I will be moving back home to be around my family as I go through treatment. No, this was not at all how I expected this to turn out, but maybe in a way it's a good thing. I'm not really sure, but I know I am going to be okay in the end. Thank you to everyone again for this. Okay, so like, wait. Hold on. So you're telling me, don't get me wrong, still bad that she was getting poisoned, but also kind of a good thing now, you know? The sooner, it would have been worse if she waited like a couple of months and then figured out she had leukemia, you know? My dad's friend at church wears a dance belt to control himself at his daughter's dance class, but dad doesn't want me to tell anyone. October 20th, 2023, original post. My dad often asks me to go to something our church calls a men's fellowship once a month, and they basically serve food and have worship and a sermon. It's in a conference room where men are seated together by table, and some dads bring their sons too. My dad started taking me when I was 13ish. We usually sit with some guys he knows, and I've grown farther from the religion as I've aged. But since it's something that we used to always do, I go for the free food and mostly remain silent. And I will stop attending church upon going to college. I sparingly attend Sundays now. But something happened last Saturday that's bothered me and caused a rift between us. During the time where each table is given time to pray for each other's prayer requests, one guy mentioned a porn addiction at our table when we went around. However, when talking about how he tries to fight temptation, he said he purchased a dance belt, something I never heard of until he explained how it worked when someone asked, to wear at his daughter's dance recitals / practices because he struggles with the sexual nature of the costumes. But he didn't tell his wife because he didn't want to ruin dance for his daughter. He also said he used to masturbate to young female dancers and gymnasts growing up because he thought it was better than porn because they were clothed, and he said his parents raised him on purity too. He also said he sometimes still masturbates to underage dancers / gymnasts as an adult, but that he couldn't go to a therapist because of the subject matter and he had wanted prayer for a while. However, it really bothered me that he had to wear a dance belt and it led to an argument with dad on the ride home. I honestly have no clue what a dance belt is, you guys. Dance belt is a kind of specialized undergarment commonly worn by male ballet dancers to support their genitals. Most are similar in design to thong underwear. From the sound of it, a dance belt is literally like a man thong that is just used to like cover up dudes' genitals when they're wearing like tight leggings. It looks like it would be incredibly uncomfortable to get a boner in one of these. So I think that's what he's saying is why he's wearing it, is because it'll either hide that or prevent him from getting one. Dad disagreed when I said something like that should be mentioned to his wife and possibly the police because it reeks of pedophilia. But he disagreed and said it was confidential to the table because it was a prayer request. And he said that prayer was the only action needed. He also said it'd be out of place for someone my age to bring it up and that I'd be punished if I did when I said I was considering it. Mom also agreed with dad and told me to mind my own business too, but I'm bothered by the thought of someone like him around kids and his own child who's in middle school with temptation that requires him to wear a dance belt. And I'm strongly considering taking action about it. I just want to ask what's the most effective way to deal with something like this? Like if it'd be best to go to the police or another source to report it. I also considered telling his wife, but I'm not sure if that's the best course because it'd most likely be at church. I could also try to find out what studio his daughter attends to warn them, but I'm open to any suggestions from those who might have dealt with something similar. First off, it's extremely sad that it sounds like this whole thing stemmed from a family that was pushing purity. That is so unbelievably sad that like this guy probably in like the most formative years of his life was jerking off to, you know, videos of girls his age in the, I guess, quote unquote, most revealing clothes that he could find at the time, which was like gymnasts and dancers. And because it was so in his formative years, he has kept that attraction to a younger demographic. That is so sad. I think it's so normal nowadays for kids to be watching porn. I don't want to be the parent that's like, you can never do this and it's wrong, because that's so unbelievably unrealistic, but more like trying to like moderate it, like make sure like, hey, you're not watching like really fucked up shit. Talk to them about sex and like the proper way. Tell them that consent is important. All this purity shit is just leading to stuff like this. It sounds like he knows that it's bad, but praying isn't gonna do it. I think OP needs to go to this guy specifically and be like, hey man, I gotta break it to you. Prayer isn't gonna do it. You gotta find help, whether it be therapy, whether it be a support group. It's gotta be something that is more than just asking people to pray for you. The hard part is that OP is a kid, but if he can figure out if this guy is doing some sketchy shit on the side, I think that is super important, because it's one thing if this guy identifies that he has a problem and actively wants to like fix it. Unfortunately, the way that he thinks it's gonna get fixed is prayer. It's another thing if he's actually giving into that temptation and then going to these sessions for forgiveness. I think he needs to disobey everything his mom's saying, everything his dad's saying, because this is an incident waiting to happen, and it's gonna weigh very heavily on OP's conscience if something does happen in the future. Also, just don't want stuff like that to happen. A lot of advice I received recommended going to the FBI over the police in case any cops happen to attend our church. And some also suggested contacting CPS, since the man, who we'll call Greg from now on, has an underage daughter. Some also said to not expect CPS to do much because they often don't do much in cases with little proof, but that it was good to get a paper trail in case things escalated. Some also suggested calling a relative to get some real life advice from an adult, and I decided to do so on Saturday after getting a lot of advice from my post on Friday. I decided on calling my grandpa, and we ended up talking for well over an hour as he had had a lot to say, including things I hadn't thought of. He also laid out a plan of what he would have done if he were at that table, and I'll explain what that was too. I kind of like that because I actually don't know what I would have done at that table. Like, first and foremost, he said he was very disappointed in my dad after hearing everything, and I want to add that my grandpa isn't religious and didn't raise my dad religious. My dad became a Christian as an adult, and we go to a Pentecostal church. Grandpa said that dad was setting a terrible example what a responsible man should be, and when I told him that dad said it was none of our business besides to pray, he said it became his business when Greg admitted to pedophilia, which he said was described as sexual attraction directed towards children, that he admitted by disclosing how he masturbates to underage dancers / gymnasts. He also said that dad, along with the other men, but he doesn't know them, had an obligation to be the adult that Greg refused to be for the sake of his wife and especially his daughter, because Greg was being immature and selfish by refusing to get therapy and asking the table to not tell his wife. He also said he didn't believe Greg was serious about changing because he refused therapy and didn't remove himself from the situation, dance studio, and he thinks he brought it up to rationalize continuing in his brain, along with the dance belt Greg stated he wore to his daughter's dance recitals / practices, which he might have rationalized was his change. When I asked what he meant by rationalizing, he said that Greg rationalized that masturbating to underage dancers / gymnasts was better than porn, as he stated at the table, and Grandpa said that purity culture was partly to blame, though not completely to absolve Greg from his ways. He said purity culture suppressed a lot of natural / healthy sexual growth for teens, and in Greg's case, guilted him / taught that porn was bad, which made Greg look to non-sexual sources to find sexual gratification. And that's how he probably began masturbating to underage dancers / gymnasts in his teens and never stopped upon becoming an adult. He also said that men are often overlooked when discussing the harms of purity culture, but that it, in this case, helped direct Greg towards non-sexual sources, dance / gymnastics, to lust after instead of porn that is often done by consenting actors / actresses. So when it came to what dad should have done, he laid out a plan of what he thought was best. First, he said that pedophiles work in secrecy. So the first thing he would have done was tell Greg, if Grandpa was at the table, that he was obligated as a father to tell his wife for his own good and the safety of his family / daughter, regardless of if it made him upset because his daughter participated in the sport that made him wear a dance belt because he struggles to control himself. Second, he would talk to his wife, with Greg hopefully present, about arranging a network of other women, including dad's wife and potentially, but unlikely, wives of other men at the table to drive his his daughter to dance in the event Greg's wife couldn't take her because Greg shouldn't be there under any circumstances currently. Third, he would have told him that he has limited time, maybe 2-ish weeks as someone suggested, to find a therapist after previously disclosing everything to his wife in step 1, and if need be, to ask for assistance in finding one. But if he refused, he would take it to the authorities because he wasn't serious about change. And fourth, he would have gone with Greg to tell the pastor to prevent Greg from being around other kids in the church, even if it meant not attending for some time. However, he was also hesitant of the last step due to the nature of churches covering for their own and trying to convince my dad of not going to the authorities, so he was a bit torn on the last one. When we were almost done with our call, Grandpa said he was hesitant to try and talk sense into Dad because he knew how he was and didn't think he would listen due to previous disagreements. But when he said that he could also get me into trouble for telling him, I suggested that he try to give Dad a chance, even though it seemed slim, because I had no pull to enact Grandpa's plan as a kid to hold him accountable. However, in the event that Dad refused, Grandpa said I could drive to his place to send a report to the FBI along with CPS with his help, and we picked a day for next week on the phone. So Grandpa called Dad shortly after we spoke, and long story short, Dad was upset that I vented to Grandpa and said that Grandpa didn't understand. He also said it's disrespectful to go to another parent/adult when you already spoke to one. So after Dad finished talking to me, I called Grandpa back to basically confirm going to his place because I wouldn't be able to convince Greg myself as a kid, along with not having any pull with Dad's other friends at the table. And Grandpa said he lost a lot of respect for Dad because Dad yelled at Grandpa about providing wordly advice and going over Dad's head. I really appreciate all the advice and links to CPS/FBI that I'll use in person with Grandpa, and I'm sorry that this post came out so long too. Edit, also the people at the table were generally Dad's friends, so Greg is one of Dad's friends at church. Yikes. Okay, we got a couple additional comments here. You have no ethical duty to keep what is discussed in this setting private. You are not his therapist, his doctor, or his lawyer. If people say they have pedophile problems, you don't owe them secrecy. On the other hand, you don't have reportable actions. What if you wrote down what you remembered and reported it? How's your dad going to know it was you? You don't owe your dad information about whether you report. Also, if pedo guy cared about his kids being safe, he would get help. He cares more about keeping himself safe. Not only does he have no ethical duty to keep what was said private, but I think he also has an ethical duty to report it or do something about it, even if it amounts to nothing, because our legal system sucks actual dick. I googled it, and apparently dance belts not only flatten bulges but also help in preventing erections because the tightness can make it hard for the penis to get properly erect. I don't have a dick, so no idea how true that info is, but still, really fucked up that the father feels the need to wear one of those belts to be able to attend middle school recitals. You did the right thing. This internet stranger is so proud of your integrity. It may not be apparent right now, but you putting yourself at odds with your parents to protect others from a predator reveals your strong and good heart. It's going to be hard and you're going to get pushback, but you are absolutely doing the right thing by talking to your grandfather, and I'm glad he has your back. A word of advice: when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Your father had just revealed who he is, and that is someone who is willing to allow children to be put in harm's way for the sake of his comfort. Others' health, safety, and security don't matter as much to him as his comfort. That's very telling. Additionally, the fact that he's trying to shut you down means potentially two things. One, that he is not a safe person for you to be yourself with, as he wants blind obedience, not genuine connection. And two, ask yourself why your father is staunchly defending a stranger's pedophilic nature. I'm not sure it proves anything, but ask yourself why you and your grandfather and grandmother were instantly able to recognize how wrong this is and how disgusted you were, and how your father wasn't. Food for thought. Hang in there and stay strong. You've got this. Your grandpa is completely right. He is also someone you should continue to go to for things like this because clearly he can be trusted, especially because he gave your dad a chance to tell his side and attempt to be fair to you both. As a parent, I find it disturbing as hell that your dad said not to go to another trusted adult because he already spoken on the matter. That's exactly how sexual abuse run rampant in these cultures. I would at this point be very concerned that my dad shared Greg's appetite for illegal and immoral sexual fantasies. It sounds like he's protecting his own interests rather than his children. I have a backup plan. Before my boyfriend started dating me seriously, he knew this. Now that he is my fiance, he wants me to get rid of it. I'm not doing it, and I don't understand why I should. Original post October 8th, 2023. I have always had a backup plan. My backup plan includes a place to live, money for general expenses, and a rainy day fund. It's more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it. I like having it, and I have explained to previous partners that I have one, and I let them decide if they're okay with it. My fiance knew this before he started dating me exclusively. He knew that if we ever got married, I would require a prenuptial agreement, and I request that this backup plan stays intact. A couple days ago, he told me he wasn't okay with this plan any longer. I don't think that's fair. He comes from a wealthy family, and the prenuptial agreement protects him, and I should have something that protects me. I'm actually finding myself really angry about this because I was an open book about this every step of the way, and now I feel like he's changed his mind. He says that having this plan makes it seem like I will leave him while I think it protects me. I'm annoyed because it's not fair to me to change your mind when you know my expectations from the beginning. Edit, I put this post up because I was annoyed that he essentially told me this on Friday, minutes before our meeting with the lawyers. I was and am annoyed, but he follows my Reddit account, so throw away. I don't tell everyone about this plan, only ones that I've gotten serious with, which is a grand total of 2. The backup plan is complicated, but it doesn't screw him over in any way. It protects me, and I would be paying for the property and still contributing the same amount that he would be to our household expenses and savings. Now that he knows what the plan entails in depth, he wants to just not sign anything on both sides. This is a bad idea. I would be unprotected, but so would he, and he has way more than I do. He feels like I have one foot out the door. I don't. I love him, but my dad is a divorce lawyer, and from what I've heard and seen, better to protect yourself and not need it than no protection and then have to pick up the pieces. Both of our parents agree that a prenuptial is needed. I'm not getting rid of this plan. There's not anything that would make me compromise about this. I told him he has a decision to make because I'm not changing my mind. Yes, I told him about this post as more people have seen it. Rather, he finds out about it from me than someone else or just being on Reddit. I'm very confused. Is OP just basically saying I have my own assets in case we get divorced? I feel like they haven't explained this backup plan very well, but from the sounds of it, it's really not a big deal. A separate bank account and their own piece of property. If for some reason they separated, OP has something to fall back on, which that sounds fair. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? Unless the boyfriend is completely unreasonable, there has to be something in there that makes the boyfriend uncomfortable. October 18th, 2022, 10 days after the original post. When I made the first post, I was angry because I felt like I had been deceived. I was honest with my fiance from the start, and I felt like he had pulled the wool over my eyes. But I understand his perspective now, and he understands mine. It never crossed our minds to break up, and I think we both needed some time to think. I understand this is Reddit, but please don't bash my partner. I understand I was vague, but to call him names and try to tear down his character when you don't know him is not okay. I also don't know why I am clarifying things. It's honestly a little therapeutic. To clarify some things about my backup plan, I called it that because I started it at 25. I have had it for about 10 years now. I'm in my mid-30s. It is an emergency savings account, another savings account, and a property I own. I use my main job to pay for my household expenses with my fiance and also to fill my main savings. I have a trust, but also investments as well, but my dad helps me handle those. The emergency savings is only money from additional contract jobs I take on in my profession. The other savings account is only money from rental income, some of which I use to maintain the property and pay my dad back. The property is a multifamily home and I rent out all the units but one. The property was bought by my dad when I was 24, and I've been paying him back the purchase price with no interest for a couple of years now. The property is worth a great amount now, but my dad would only accept what he paid for it from me. He took out a loan for me because he wanted me to be set up financially. I'm paying him back even though he already paid the loan off a long time ago. There's no way I would be able to buy that property now, or even 5 years ago, since the house prices have skyrocketed where I live, and I am grateful that my dad did that for me. I will finally pay off the loan in about 8 months and before I get married. It's taken me so long to pay my dad back because he insisted that I prioritize setting myself up financially rather than paying him back. The property is also a 15-minute walk to the nearest hospital and close to the city center, so it is easy to rent out to medical students. I keep one unit open because of events. I make a killing when there are events or when a big artist tours, and 2 examples are the recent Fiance and Taylor Swift tours where I made a lot on the days they were in my city. If there are no events where I think I can make a good amount, I rent it out to travel nurses in 3 to 4 month periods, once or twice a year, but realistically, there could be a couple weeks or 2 to 3 continuous months during the year where it sits empty. Overall, though, I make a substantial amount from this property. I can't take credit for the strategy because my dad is the one who helped me set up the apartments and manage it. My partner and I come from vastly different economic backgrounds. His family has generational wealth and he can't remember a time they didn't. I grew up firmly middle class until my parents divorced, and then it was a struggle for a while. His home life was relatively stable with a mom and dad. On the other hand, my dad tried his best, but my birth mom made my childhood tumultuous both emotionally and mentally. The difference with how we think about money became very noticeable when we were planning our wedding. We had been discussing what type of flowers we would like, and then I started talking about the budget and stated that I thought 30 to 40K was good overall to pay for a wedding and an amount where we could easily afford it. He thought I meant 30 to 40K for flowers. No fucking way you can spend 30 to 40K on flowers. Those flowers better cure fucking cancer if you're spending 30 to 40K on them. He thought I meant 30 to 40K $40K for flowers, and he and his parents didn't budge at the amount and just said, okay. I clarified what I meant, and I would never ever pay that amount just for flowers. When it comes to the plan, my fiance knew about it as soon as we were exclusive. I don't agree with people saying I shouldn't have told him. To protect my assets in the prenuptial agreement, I had to. I also told him because I felt he deserved to know. As we got more serious, especially with marriage, I told him more after talking to my dad and finding out what was okay to say so that he understood the extent of the plan. The reason I kept saying the backup plan was complicated was due to the prenup my dad had come up with. It is very long and protects me very well, and my fiance was, in his view, not prepared for the extent of it. My dad and I went to this extent due to what he had seen people do in divorces, but also mainly due to his divorce that affected us both. It didn't help that I further joked that my dad tried to cover for any loopholes, including asking his associates to look over the document and revising it if one was found. What I saw as protection, my fiance saw as me having an out since my dad went to such an extent. The short part of it is that my fiance was insecure about it. He grew up with a dad as the breadwinner, and he was raised with this idea that he should be a provider, and my plan rattled him because it showed him that financially I didn't really need him. He told me he didn't realize how much of himself he had tied into this provider role and felt extremely insecure because he didn't know what he now brought to the relationship. When he found out about the sometimes empty unit, he felt more uneasy because he, even though I have and will always have a job, wanted and planned to take care of me. His idea of scrapping both prenups was his way of trying to say that he trusted me and that I should trust him. If he was willing to go without a prenup, knowing I could get a substantial amount of his assets, then it would show me that he would never try to hurt me financially or otherwise. I told him I saw it at the time as extremely manipulative due to him doing it before we met with the lawyers, and he apologized because he honestly just panicked. I explained the reasons I wanted a prenup. The first was because I was with him when his brother got a divorce, and to put it nicely, the brother's ex-wife financially got eviscerated. I'm not going to talk about their relationship, but financially, she just kept being taken back to court over and over until she said she couldn't afford a lawyer anymore. From the way his brother bragged about it, she wasn't left destitute, but paid a significant amount in legal fees and left with a far smaller settlement. His family would have bankrupted her because they had the wealth to wait her out. They could have gone to court forever and they had a prenup. His brother's divorce was never on his radar as a reason why I was so persistent about the prenup. Basically, what I said was there was a disparity in wealth here, and I know he would never do this to me, but I would feel better protected with one. The second reason is that though my dad is a divorce lawyer and upper middle class now, he went through a pretty bad divorce with my birth mom, and I witnessed it for 3 years. My dad is a first generation, married young, and had no prenup. What I saw from 9 to 12 was my birth mom, I no longer consider her a parent, completely try to annihilate my dad, and she didn't care that her child's well-being was on the line. She didn't care what financial damage she did even to herself as long as my dad suffered. I'm talking wiping out savings, taking loans and maxing out credit cards, getting tickets and getting the car towed by parking in an incorrect place and leaving the car to accumulate fees. She called CPS, said my dad was a pedophile, and turned on me when I wouldn't back up her lies. And all of this financially devastated my dad for years during and after the divorce. We were struggling for years, and I think people don't realize how quickly you can go from stable, even upper class, to nearly homeless or homeless. People don't realize, if you have never been in that position before, how an ugly divorce not only devastates people financially, but also socially and professionally. My dad lost clients and lost income, and it took many years to rebuild it back. We only survived because my grandmother, dad's side, sold her home. I told my fiance that I basically went from having a parent who showed me love for 9 years to a person who hated me and decided to destroy 2 people, my dad and me, because a marriage ended. There was no way to stop her, and a prenup could have stopped a lot of financial damage. I again told him I knew he wouldn't do this to me, but I needed him to understand where I was coming from. Also, if anyone reading this says I'm damaged from this and should have been in therapy from age 9, I know, but it's hard to pay for therapy when you're poor. It is the last priority over having a roof over your head and food and basic necessities. I did get into therapy when I was 19. My fiance and I talked over several days, and anytime he had a question or needed clarification, I answered it. I didn't realize how much seeing the extensive prenup affected him, and he didn't realize why I was so insistent on it. Overall, he knows that though I'd love and trust him, that I have to protect myself, and he should too. He knows why I'm insistent on signing a prenup, but also knows that I'm choosing to be with him based on who he is as a person and not what he can provide for me. I now understand why he felt insecure, and I have tried to alleviate that, and I'm constantly reassuring him of the reasons I'm with him. I also asked him to come see the property and unit with me, and he was really excited about that. I told him that I don't plan on us breaking up ever, and I have a plan for leaving the assets to our future children. Finally, I really see how, when it comes to people he loves. He leads with emotion while I'm more logical. So we both are going to try to be more mindful of that as we move forward. We both finally signed the prenups, and his only stipulation was to stop calling mine a backup plan and instead call it a I'm never going to need this plan. We are good, and I'm glad this happened because it showed both of us that we need to work on our communication more outside of our counseling. We are going to keep planning our wedding, and I'm excited to begin this next part of our lives together. I will say it is frightening that they missed on such a big issue due to a communication error and they're about to get married. I do not want to get married to somebody who I don't feel like I can communicate effectively with. And this is really big proof on them not being able to effectively communicate with one another. Not saying they shouldn't get married, not saying that they're not meant for each other, but this just sounds like they both could not communicate how they were feeling and like why they were doing the things that they were doing, which is just dumb, especially if you're A, about to get married, and B, together for as long as they've been together. It surprises me that OP never told their partner about like how awful the divorce was, and because of that, that's why they want the prenup. Like that shocks me. That's like a huge factor to who OP is as a person. So like the fact that they didn't communicate that and they're getting married to this person is like, dude. So they're wealthy and in love. I hate them. Jade. Jade, that's the comment of the night. My 36 female, daughter's 18 female, friend 18 female, stole a $4,900 watch from my husband, 56 male, and we don't know how to tell her parents. Original post, October 16th, 2023. Our daughter has been friends with this girl for about 8 or 9 months, and in the last few months, she has been starting to invite her to our house more often because they are classmates, and sometimes they have projects to do together. Well, last week she came to our house, and my husband was helping them with a project, since they are studying the same thing he studied, and at one point, my youngest daughter came home with her friends, so my eldest daughter and her friend went to my husband's office. And according to him, he had taken off his watch and left it on his desk, and our daughter saw it, so he was right. But when her friend left, the watch was gone, and after searching for it throughout the house, I decided to check the security cameras, and she took it when she was left alone in the office for less than 5 seconds. To my surprise, my daughter wasn't surprised because according to her, this is the third time that valuable things have disappeared from our house. The first 2 times she stole a pair of gold earrings and a gold necklace from my daughter, and she thought she lost them because honestly, she loses her things all the time. But my daughter is sure that her necklace and earrings were in her jewelry box and that her friend took them. And now my husband and I don't know if we should tell her parents since she has stolen a significant sum of money from our house, and the last thing we want is to get the police involved. We just want to get our stuff back and help her get help because she clearly has a problem. How can you talk to parents about this without them feeling offended? In total, she stole almost $6,000 from our house, and that's not right. But she's young and we want to give her another chance. That's why we're not going to involve the police, and that's why we also want to talk to her parents. What would be the correct way to face the situation? Just to clarify, they are in college, and this decision not to involve the police has to do with that. We don't want to affect her academically, and I say that we want to talk to her parents because she still lives with them and they are the ones who pay everything for her. I think this is an invite them over type of conversation, and obviously make sure that you have the videos on hand. I think you should also start off the conversation by being like, hey, we don't want to go to the police. We have this evidence, but we want to make sure that you're aware of it. October 21st, 2023. My husband and I decided to talk to her parents because she lives with them and we thought telling them was the best thing. Well, according to them, they suspected that she was doing something wrong because she was receiving more and more gifts from my daughter every day because that's what she said they were. We told them that our daughter only gave her a bracelet that was a birthday gift, but that the rest of the things were never gifted. And fortunately, they weren't offended and even promised to check her room to see if they could find our things. When they checked her room and her electronics, they found even more things than we thought. She has been stealing things from our house for months to sell them online on a secondhand clothing sales app. At home, we live with 4 teenagers, 18, 16, 14, and 12, who are constantly exchanging clothes, shoes, and jewelry, and often have arguments because one of them takes something from the other without permission. So when she stole several of my daughter's clothes, they never suspected it was her. She sold all the clothes she stole from them and only had my daughter's earrings and necklace and a ring for my youngest daughter and my husband's watch in her house. According to her, she did that because she wanted to help her father with some debts that he has because she didn't want to have to sacrifice college to reduce expenses. She works as a nanny and sometimes that money wasn't enough to help her family, and she noticed that since my daughter wasn't affected by losing jewelry, she thought about taking them because she needed them more. Her parents confirmed that they have a debt, but they would never have thought she would do something like this to help. They apologized and promised to return every penny of the things that were already sold, but my husband told them that it was not necessary, that her giving us back the jewelry and the watch was enough. She gave us everything back and also apologized. We told her that this time we were not going to involve the police, but that not everyone would do the same if they caught her stealing again. We also made it clear to her that she's no longer welcome in our home and that my daughter will finish the project for both of them because we don't want her to be involved with her either. Wow, tough on the daughter, man. Hey, yo, I know you just got your shit stolen, but also you have to finish this 2-person project by yourself. And that was it, and we haven't heard from her since. A lot of people said we were idiots for not getting the police involved, and the truth is we might be, but we weren't going to ruin an entire family's life over a watch and some earrings. I also read comments saying that my daughter knew that she stole, but that is not the case. She loses things all the time, or sometimes her sisters take her things without permission, so she never suspects that her friend was the one stealing from her. That's why she kept inviting her over. That's a stupid thing to believe. Like, why would she bring it up if she was like enabling this woman to steal stuff? Honestly, like, W parents, it's hard because when you're like 17 to even 20, I'd say 20 is a stretch, but definitely like 19, you're in this like transition period from kid to adult. You should be a little bit more lenient. Like, I definitely did stupid things when I was 18 for sure. It sucks that the daughter's intentions were good. Like, she's like, I want to help my family, but just the execution was wrong. I found tickets for a cruise that my boyfriend got me. This gift has cemented for me that this relationship is over. October 16th, 2023. My birthday is coming up in a few months, and 3 days ago, I found out what my birthday present was, which is tickets to a cruise. His sister spilled the news thinking I would be excited, and I'm not. We live together, and I found the gift and know it's for me. I sound so ungrateful, but I'm not. This gift just proves to me that things will never change. The first thing is, this gift isn't for me. I do not like cruises because I get really bad seasickness, and nothing I do helps. I also told him what I wanted to do for my birthday, which was go to a Ren Fair festival on my birthday. I have already taken the week off from work for it in preparation to go to this fair. I have purchased tickets and I'm saving month to month so that I have spending money without it affecting finances at home. Why would he book tickets the same time as the time I took off to go to this festival? Also, this cruise wasn't cheap at all, so it's basically wasted money because I'm not going. I'm so annoyed. I've told him time and time again that I don't feel like he listens to me, that I feel like he just gets me things by thinking about what's best for him or what he would like. It's not only gifts. He makes decisions based on what he thinks is best, and I just can't deal with it anymore. I love him, but I'm so done. And before anyone says I didn't talk to him or talk to him about this, I have repeatedly. This has been a recurring conversation in our 2.5-year relationship. The next thing to do is talk this out and end things. Edit, I appreciate the comments and concern about cheating, but I know the gift is for me because it was in really nice packaging that said, "Happy birthday, my name." And the bag had like cruise ship related items and possible excursions. The effort he went to, it made me sad because that means he could have put in a little effort about the things I like. If he had even just gotten me a ticket for the Ren Fair Festival or accessories from online or even a piece of an outfit that had to do with Ren Fair, it would have made my entire month. It would have meant that he listened and got me something that interested me. I'm talking to him tonight and I'm not even annoyed anymore. I feel nothing about this. I think these types of relationships are very common. At least in the beginning, they're willing to overlook their flaws, but then after they've wasted like 3 or 4 years with them, they come out of it and they're like, oh my God, that was garbage. So I love the internet because I think this can like help raise awareness around this is not okay. Update October 19th, 2023. The day I wrote my post is the day I ended things with my ex. When he came home, I basically said I found the tickets for the cruise and I asked him who they were for. He said they were for me for my birthday and I ruined the surprise. I asked him why did he get me tickets for a cruise when he knew that I got seasick and also when he knew that I have been preparing for a Ren Fair festival for a couple of months. He said that he always liked cruises when he went on them and he thought that I could push through it with patches or some other remedy because it was a really expensive cruise. He continued talking, but to be honest, I spaced out because I realized just how much this man didn't care about me. He bought cruise tickets completely disregarding what I had planned, how I would feel, and what I wanted to do, all because he liked them. Like, F my birthday, F what I want, F how sick I got. He likes cruises, so we should do that. I think he realized I wasn't speaking or excited because he asked me what was wrong, and I broke up with him. He was shocked and angry, and he asked why. This isn't the exact wording, but I said something like, it's because I have realized how much you really don't care about me, and that you're always willing to put your wants over mine every time it suits you, even on my birthday. He started to argue and wanted to talk about it, but I was just numb and went to bed on the couch. After 2 hours of trying to speak to me, he left me alone. I woke up the next day and got ready for work. I oddly felt fine, and he wanted to talk, but I just said I'm done, and if he wanted to talk about the apartment or whatever we would do about the lease or anything regarding the end of the relationship, I'm okay with that. I told him I'm not changing my mind about this, and for me, this relationship is done and I just want to split amicably. While I was at work that day, I had free time and I wrote down every instance I could remember just in the last 6 months of him choosing his wants/needs over mine. It was nearly 3 pages front to back, and I didn't even realize how much I let go off because he didn't want to do it. When I went home and he tried to talk again, I gave him the list and I explained what it was. He left me alone the rest of the second night. He's still not accepting the breakup. He wants to do couples therapy now and even go on a break because he realizes how much he has done, but nope. I'm not doing it. I'm not trying to be mean or harsh to him, but I don't want to give him false hope. I also feel weirdly okay, but also numb at the same time. What I have to deal with now is breaking the lease, which he isn't willing to do because he thinks we can move past this. So I'm going to talk to the leasing office and see my options. At least I have my birthday to look forward to as I deal with a relationship ending and having to find a new place to live. Juicy, but it sounds like everything's gonna go well for her, and she handled it very, very well. Really standing your ground, not giving in, but I mean, that also probably shows that she was sick of it. If you enjoyed, click right here to watch another one of my Reddit videos and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on new messy Reddit threads every week. Mwah.